Alrighty, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel Nwadei MMA, where I give you my thoughts, but more importantly ask for you guys' thoughts, as you guys are the MMA community and I wouldn't be doing this thing without you guys. So thank you guys for stopping by today. Today we're going to be talking about major news going on in the UFC or in the MMA world really. Some of you heard that USADA came out with a statement pretty much trying to defamate the UFC and slander the UFC and give this whole narrative and change the narrative about what the UFC is trying to do. And for those of you who didn't want to watch the hour-long video, that is why I'm making this segment. I plan on being real quick here today, giving you all the juicy details of what was said in that hour-and-a-half long press conference that Jeff Novitzky and Hunter Campbell gave, and I'm going to be going over pretty much everything that was about. So guys, thank you for stopping by my video. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and you're more than welcome to subscribe as well. And if you do choose to subscribe, go ahead and hit that bell icon to be notified every time we go live or upload a video. Also guys, we are going to be breaking down Paulo Costa versus Kamaru Usman very soon, so stay tuned for that as well. And Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev, due to all the updates and changes to UFC 294. However, with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Alright guys, so this has been an ongoing thing for the last 6 years, is what Jeff Novitzky and Hunter Campbell were saying, that their relationship with USADA hasn't been the best. Why? Because pretty much the technology of USADA is not up to par with the other anti-doping agencies. What do I mean by that? Well, they go into very exclusive detail, but first they went on to state that at first their relationship with USADA was great. USADA was great. It was helping clean up the sport. However, we were still hearing things about people overseas being able to get by the test, particularly in Russia, particularly in Brazil, mainly because these are the overseas fighters who come to the UFC. But that nonetheless, they were able to bypass the system a little bit, and this wasn't very public knowledge, but it was knowledge that's going on within gyms and kind of like the backroom talk, right? You heard Nate Diaz in his very famous quote, "Everyone is on steroids." However, what did he mean by that? Well, USADA, as I said before, is a United States anti-doping agency. It is a department of WADA, and for many years has been the gold standard for anti-doping and for catching people who are trying to cheat. However, over the past few years, with the increase of technology, I'm assuming they were talking about AI and all of the increases with that and app technology and pretty much just technology in general, that USADA, with all the money they were spending on research, wasn't making many improvements. For an example, the whereabouts issue. We saw with Yair Rodriguez that he was suspended for, what was it, 2 years or a year because of his whereabout issues. They didn't know where he was, or the app was messing up that they were using, and the technology that they were currently using was having trouble or giving trouble to Yair Rodriguez, so they wanted to make these things more seamless for the fighters. USADA apparently kept promising that the technology was going to get better, and they were giving all of these false promises, and eventually the UFC got tired of it. Part of the reason I mentioned that USADA is a United States-based doping agency is because they don't have full jurisdiction to test athletes worldwide based off of if they're in season or out of season, or as they call it, in competition or out of competition. And we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in this in the near future, especially with the fact that the UFC is now going to be partnering with drug-free sports. It's the same anti-doping agency that the NFL uses and other major league sports, what they use. This is what the UFC is going to be moving toward. And to head off this program, Jeff Novitzky and Hunter Campbell named maybe one of the most ridiculous resumes in George Piro, apparently. Now I'm going to give you a quick rundown, and then I'm going to show you a clip of everything George Piro is known for and what he's done for not only the United States but just worldwide, and his integrity and stuff like that. But apparently this guy's a world champion in no-gi jiu-jitsu, masters division. Of course, he's a retired FBI agent. He handled the interrogation of Saddam Hussein and just a whole bunch of other ridiculous accolades that you're gonna see in this clip right here.
And when you talk about George Piro, you're talking about an individual with the highest level of integrity and credibility you can possibly imagine. And while I had a noticeable federal law enforcement career, my resume pales in comparison to that of George Pirro. And as I talk about George Pirro, he's quite literally an American hero. He just recently retired as the special agent in charge of the FBI field office in Miami, Florida. He previously was the assistant director of the International Operations Division at FBI headquarters. He was the supervisor of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. He's also a world champion no-gi jiu-jitsu masters level. He knows the sport. He knows what the athletes go through from his world-class level training. We actually had George out at headquarters a few weeks ago, and he was mentioning to us that he's watched every single UFC pay-per-view, every single fight, virtually every one live. He knows more about this sport and the UFC than probably the entire personnel of USADA does. Most significantly, when the United States captured Saddam Hussein, George was solely in charge of his interrogation. The US government literally put the safety of the citizens of the United States in his hands, sent him over to Iraq, and he was Saddam's only contact with the outside world for a period of about 9 months. George will make every, and I stress, every final decision in the program. That authority will be his and his alone. We will surround him with experts, with the likes of Dr. Eichner, so that George has every single resource at his disposal to make the right call every single time. And I'm sure that everybody listening to this is running to their phones and computers to look up George Pirro and who is this guy, and I would encourage you to do so.
Now, to round off this video, because I promised you it wasn't going to be too long, pretty much the UFC is going to be able to have more super analysis tests to where they're going to be able to check more often for EPO, because USADA did not test very often for EPO, only when they saw things in the bloodstream that was trying to hide EPO. Matter of fact, that's how TJ Dillashaw got caught. It wasn't for the EPO itself, but it was for another drug which was trying to mask the effects of EPO. They're going to have increased testing overseas, in and out of competition, more super analysis with those as well. They're also going to be able to test for HGH, and HGH, that's a big one that they named in this press conference, because USADA, in their statement that their CEO gave, they were trying to slander the UFC by bringing up Conor McGregor. They were trying to pretty much say that the UFC was not partnering with them anymore so that they could rush Conor McGregor back, when the UFC told them explicitly many times that Conor McGregor would have to go through the full 6 months, that they didn't care if he had 37 clean tests or whatnot, that he would have to go through this full 6 months before he was able to fight again. So pretty much everything USADA said was reckless and was to kind of slander the UFC. It was out of anger, it was emotional, and usually we don't see that out of USADA or these kind of big corporations. So this was very interesting. Dana White called them scumbags. If you've seen my last video, you know this already and you saw my reaction to all of that. However, with whereabout issues being solved, there's supposed to be seamless whereabouts now, so that people aren't running into these kind of issues. There's supposed to be less false positive tests and tainted supplement tests. Everything is pretty much supposed to be getting better. That's what this hour-and-a-half long press conference was about. It was about the UFC protecting its image. It was about telling everyone that USADA was tripping, telling everyone that Conor McGregor has nothing to do with this and that he will be handled as he's supposed to. More testing for EPO, more testing for HGH, more overseas in and out of competition testing for athletes, and it's pretty much supposed to enhance and help clean up the sport even more. So for those of you wondering if testing was going away, it is not. They're partnering with another independent drug anti-doping agency, and I'm very interested to see what the UFC and USADA's next moves are. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you found this helpful. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and leave your comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace out.